200 million in drought aid that never materialized.
The current MEC and the HOD had signed the documents. The process was complete. Then they told us there is no longer a budget.
Why must I be answerable for something that doesn't exist? People start rumors, and I'm expected to clarify.
No projects have been done, and the money is finished. These projects should have been implemented, but they are at a standstill because there is no money. It's one of the worst droughts ever to hit South Africa. Dams once filled to the brim begin to run dry. Crops and livestock losses reach crisis levels. 6 of the country's 9 provinces are declared disaster areas, and government scrambles to earmark 2.5 billion rands for drought relief.
Drought is a big problem, and it needs all of us to work together to mitigate the impact. The impact on the agricultural sector is severe and will affect us for a long time to come.
KwaZulu-Natal is one of the worst hit. The plummeting maize harvest should have set alarms blaring at the Provincial Department of Agriculture. Yet the farmers' woes do not appear to be very high on the department's list of priorities. Instead of pulling their weight in a time of crisis, the staff is busy locking horns. At loggerheads are the Agriculture MEC, Mr. Mthembu, his Chief of Staff, Mr. Matonsi, and Head of Department, Dr. Mkhize. Behind me is Sadara, the controversial KZN's Department of Agriculture, where tensions between the MEC and 2 staff members reached a boiling point, resulting in reshuffles and job losses. The seeds of this conflict have been sown over appointments at supply chain management. What starts as a tussle over hiring of deputy director generals precipitates into a full-blown conflict over a man named S.E. Mqadi. Mqadi is the MEC's choice for the post of supply chain management director. Head of Department Mkhize, however, doesn't find merit in the recommendation. He refuses to carry out the instructions. 2 days later, there are consequences. There's been a long-standing tussle at the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Agriculture, seemingly affecting the service delivery. Let's take a look at the conflict. It all started on February 6, 2017, when the MEC directed the HOD to appoint S. Mqadi as the Director of Supply Chain Management. On February 13, 2017, the HOD objected, citing allegations of unlawful conduct pending disciplinary processes against Mqadi as per a forensic report. On March 2, 2017, the MEC said the HOD told him that the grounds of his objections are that Mqadi is a whistleblower. On March 2, 2017, the MEC then said you are victimizing the official because he is a whistleblower. You have become aggressive in your efforts to prevent anyone from getting to the supply chain management, whilst it has been in autopilot mode for long. He then instructed HR management to process the appointments. On March 6, 2017, the HOD, Dr. Mkhize, initiated disciplinary proceedings against Mqadi on basis of evidence against him in the NMK forensic reports. He then wrote to the MEC alleging that he is imposing an allegedly corrupt official. On March 7, 2017, the HOD issued show cause to Mqadi to explain why he should not be suspended over serious misconduct allegations emanating from the NMK forensic reports. On March 9, 2017, the MEC then withdrew all the HR delegations from the HOD, effective from March 10th. March 29, 2017, the MEC then appointed Qati as the Director of Supply Chain Management with effect from March 8th.
Ngadi was placed as the Director of SCM because he's a person that works with the MEC's agenda. The previous HOD who was removed, Mr. Mkhize, advised the MEC that Mr. Ngadi should not be in that post because he is still facing charges of corruption. There is a forensic report. Dr. Mkhize said that because of the corruption charges, the MEC could not hire him on a post that deals with money, especially with the history of this department, even on an acting basis. The MEC insisted and took away Mr. Mkhize's powers so that he, the MEC, could finalize the appointment of Mr. Ngadi.
As administrators grapple for the upper hand, service delivery takes a back seat. Hapless farmers are pinning their hopes on this planting season, but with a factional battle raging at the department, procurement schedules go unmet. Now, having survived a natural disaster, the farmers are instead falling victim to a man-made crisis.
The first thing that I think the MEC really needs to do is to admit that the department is in a serious state of crisis. And once that admission has been made, then one can then be able to see whether or not the interventions that he claims to be putting in place would assist in solving the problem.
Behind the battle of egos is a bigger political game. The MEC is also provincial secretary of the SA Communist Party. As such, he seems to enjoy the backing of the Premier, Willis Mchunu, who happens to be the former provincial chair of the party. Mkhize, meanwhile, is also said to have ANC leanings. The two parties are in an alliance, but the marriage has been on the rocks for a while. Dissatisfaction over ANC leadership and the SACP's plans to dump the party in the next general elections have led to a lot of heartburn. The bickering at national level has evidently trickled down to the provincial cadres.
You will remember that Mr. Mtembu is the General Secretary of the SACP in the province. So when he got here, he took control over Nihao, as he mentioned before that he would use Nihao to dance to his tune. He used Nihao to help him get rid of this HOD that was very much doing things in the right way. He politicized the whole situation, and Nihao didn't agree with him because there was a meeting requested between him and Nihao after he failed to politicize the situation.
That's corruption at its best. That would tantamount to corruption at its best. I have heard of the recording. I have not listened to the recording fully, but a number of people have approached me about the recording. And unfortunately, it can't be made public, as I'm told that the manner in which it was secured could actually be illegal or what. But at this day and age of democracy, it can't be that service delivery is compromised just to accommodate political agendas.
That whole saga is just, it's comical. And then when I look at it, it appears as though there's much that belies everything else. And we hopefully hope that at some stage we will be taken into confidence to find out what really happened and what were the reasons. I mean, it can't be that a head of department is purported to want to take action, then he has powers taken from him. Then after powers taken from him, the very individuals that he was seeking to take action against is now being appointed, and then there's a cloud hanging over that.
Award-winning journalist and author P. Sainath once said, "Everybody loves a good drought." The administrators see an unquestioned influx of funds and elbow each other to get ahead in the queue, leaving ill-fated farmers high and dry as private coffers are quietly being filled.
The current MEC and the HOD had signed the documents. The process was complete. Then they told us there is no longer a budget. They conducted a side briefing where people came to do assessments, but now there's no money. A year has passed and we are still at a standstill. When we cry for help, we are not assisted. I wish you could see these farms and their current state.
The very serious problem, overall problem with this whole fiasco is the fact that the people of KwaZulu-Natal remain poor. They are faced with the challenges of poverty, unemployment, lack of jobs for young people in this province. And I'm not sure if you're also aware that whilst this whole fiasco is happening in this department, by extension it has led to 26 service delivery projects having to be cancelled by this department.
I certainly believe that the farmers are always the ones who get the short shift. One just doesn't know what's really going on because there's a whole lot of he says, she says, and this is what's going on. But the reality is that the people who engage with the department that should be getting the support are the ones that come back and they say they are constantly frustrated because the action officers tell them that nothing is happening. And when the action officers are saying nothing is happening, the person that is seeking the help has no other point of engagement other than the person who's meant to help them. So definitely this is impacting on the farmer on the floor.
The department that plays the most crucial role here is supply chain management. As the name suggests, it is the management of the flow of goods and services. One look at the Sidara management, however, and it's clear how vigorous the struggle is to control the direction of this flow. Let's take a look at how there's an ongoing tussle between the MEC and the HOD over the control of the Supply Chain Management Department. The MEC wants Mqadi to head the department. It says that he's been cleared of all charges. But the HOD says Mqadi is being imposed despite allegations of corruption against him, as per the NMK forensic reports. Meanwhile, the HOD wants Kunene to be appointed as the Supply Chain Management Director. The MEC dismisses the proposal, saying that Kunene has been charged and found guilty of misconduct earlier. The HOD then claims that the charges against Kunene were withdrawn, but the MEC alleges that the HOD is hell-bent on defending Kunene despite pending cases against him. KwaZulu-Natal Premier Willies Mchunu launches an investigation into the alleged supply chain management corruption. He vows to make the findings public once the audit is completed.
The main fallout is because also he is SACP who wants to disguise himself and work with the ANC when these tensions are coming. But also his main thing also is to siphon money. It's him who's very corrupt. He wants to siphon money, to take the money of the department in order to push his campaign, to fill his pocket, but also to fill the campaign for his party.
Why must I answer into engekho?
Why must I be answerable for something that doesn't exist? People start rumors and I'm expected to clarify. Go and check the books and examine what I'm talking about. Go and speak to the staff members in the department.
Uhambe uyokhuluma nabasebenzi be-department. Ngikushilo ukuthi I'm not going to conduct what isimo esikhona sikaMathonsi, even esika-HOD with the media. When proper platforms...
Mathonsi and the HOD are approaching media. When the matter is being dealt at proper platforms. I have said this and I won't retract, you see. When the processes are complete, the outcome will be communicated to public.
The result of this arm wrestling is that for the preceding 7 years, the post of Supply Chain Management Director as Sidara is left vacant. The last acting director leaves in 2016 and no appointments are made since. And the farmers' interests have fallen through the cracks, along with the finances.
The portfolio committee. We have just had a special portfolio committee where we were just asked to consider 2 items. And the first item was transfer of monies to agricultural projects. And you're talking about 2.2 million rands to Mbangweni beef project. You're talking about another 2.2 to Nozinkanyi. So then there's Mbofana, which is the escort area in those areas. Farms that were actually that were given to beneficiaries through the land claim process. There's about 21 million there. All of this is money that we haven't, the department hasn't really budgeted for.
At the losing end of this destructive politics and the battle for power and greed are millions of farmers who were hoping to prosper but have now been left in the dark.
But it was 2012 when I got to know about the farm. I was still at college, and COSAL KZN was involved in the training of cooperatives, as well as the training of managers of cooperatives in the various districts of KwaZulu-Natal. So since there were cooperatives in this area as well, I then got to know about the farm and its operations. Well, down the line around 2014, I learned that the farm was no longer operational, and the reason given was a shortage of funds. And since I had known about the farm and its operations and what it was capable of doing, I then got closer and wanted to know how I could get involved. I was hoping that I would assist the people around here in getting funds from whatever source that was possible. But at the time when I arrived here, there was barely anything in the fields, save for cabbage as well as butternut. Yes, the drought has been quite strong. It has been severe in the area. Although the farm is bordering on Ilovo River, which is a source of water for watering the fields. But now to draw water from the fields, you need electricity, which is supplied by Eskom. Now, with the shortage of funds, the cooperative could not water their field because they would have had to pay for electricity. So if there wasn't any drought, the rain would have helped in wetting the farm. Unfortunately, with so much drought that we have experienced over the past few years, we had to rely on electricity. That is, in farms where there was electricity, where people could afford. But now in this particular farm, they couldn't pay.
Come 2015 and South Africa is reeling under the worst drought since 1982. With water supplies dwindling, crops and livestock soon begin to wither and die.
The drought has hit us hard since all our plants didn't grow. That includes the butternut and cabbage. As for the cabbage, it became red due to the drought. The only solution we are hoping for is to get funding in terms of seed, fertilizer and farm implements.
umanyolo ngoba nawo asinawo ke njena ke izinto nje zokusebenza nje emasimini ke singabonga kakhulu.
As farms are teetering on the brink, government seems slow in pledging aid. But when it does, 200 million rand allegedly vanishes. Fast forward several years, and the unfunded recipients are on a countdown to destruction.
In 2011 ke liye labuyela ngakho
I've been working with this farm since 2011, but the problems began when the government funding ran dry and it started to withdraw. We tried everything. We even started to sell what we had and seeking help from everywhere. Until we were told that we would no longer get help because we had been funded before. We continued to try until we met with a guy called Tear Gas. He helped us and we even started plowing the fields until we were badly hit by the drought. All of our plants couldn't grow. We started with 28 guys, and due to the economy, we ended up with 12, and most of the guys then went away. We are trying our best, but it is tough. We would be grateful if the government could help us with fertilizer and diesel, because the electricity was shut off long ago because we couldn't afford it anymore.
No manyolo, imbewu, no diesel. Singakwazi ukuthi silokhuze siqhubeke ngoba ugesi wavalwa ngoba manje imali zingasakhokha.
As I said, the farm has a potential for growth. It needs funding and it needs training of the people on the ground. Unfortunately, in the past, it would seem not much, if any, exposure was given to the people here. When I asked from them as to what really happened in the farm, they only got to know that funds ran out. But as to how much funds were there, how the funds ran out, what was the profit from whatever produce was sent out, they have no idea, because they were not hands-on in the administrative part of the farm. These are basically foot soldiers who are in the field. They were tilling the fields and working in the factory here. So I think what is needed here is funding, establishment of outlets for purchasing of the fresh produce, as well as some training given to the people who are here. Yes, I'm around, but I'm not a member of the cooperative. I'm just assisting because I also hope to benefit by way of getting a field where I can plant and exercising the skill which I have a passion for.
Clearly, there's a huge need for funds, but they've mysteriously dried up. Now the department is back at the government store looking for more handouts.
The portfolio committee. We have just had a special portfolio committee where we were just asked to consider two items. And the first item was transfer of monies to agricultural projects. And you're talking about 2.2 million rands to Mbangweni beef project. You're talking about another 2.2 to Nozinkanyi. So then there's Mbofana, which is the escort area in those areas. Farms that were actually that were given to beneficiaries through the land grain process. There's about 21 million there. All of this is money that we haven't, the department hasn't really budgeted for.
Meanwhile, the HOD is crying foul after being removed. The former HOD faces charges for alleged misconduct regarding drought relief funding. September 7th, 2017, the Supply Chain Management Director's term ends, and a forensic investigation is launched to find out where 200 million rands of KwaZulu-Natal's drought relief budget went.
Part of the reasons that the HOD was removed from his positions was the fact that this was meant to be investigated, and this suspension was meant, or the removal was meant to sit for I think it was a period of 30 days from April 13 to about May 13 to allow the department to really put to bed what had occurred with that funding. We now find ourselves 5-6 months later, and we're still sitting with this enigma of there was drought funding provided for KZN. No one knows what has been done with it. Now, the longer it goes on, what ends up happening is that this happens to be, it dissipates like dust. Dust goes into the air, nobody knows, and the 200 million, everybody sort of forgets there was an amount of money. So these things, because the HOD was removed or moved to the Premier's office to put this matter to bed, one would like to believe that the MEC will take us into confidence to tell us what he discovered after the investigation was done, what actually occurred with the drought funding. It can't be that it just gets swept under the rug. If the HOD did something with that drought funding that was untoward, he must be brought to book.
A tangled web of political intrigue has placed a huge question mark over KwaZulu-Natal's annual harvest. With the planting season's end looming, the fate of thousands of farmers was once again left hanging in the balance. No one can truly pinpoint what the cause of political infighting in the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Agriculture is. But what resulted from a clash between three key players is that 200 million in food security funds has vanished. The losers in this are the small-scale farmers who should have planted their crops by now. A forensic report is expected by the end of the year, but by then it'll be too late for the innocent victims caught in this mess. Kani Mapanga, ANN7, Pietermaritzburg.